Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Howdy, hello, how are you? Good morning.
Good
What's
morning. And Steve is here.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
At least we got the A team.
Yeah. The core is here.
Okay.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is being brought to you by Adamas.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. And the broadcast is made possible by Telestream's Wirecast software. Okay. So, to start things off, um,
Yes.
I did the show Friday night.
You did this show Friday night and you didn't even tell us?
I did the show.
Oh.
A show. The
A show
Parangome.
Friday night.
And
Okay.
when I was done, I went to listen to the recording, and the recording was completely messed up. I mean, I can't explain to you what it sounded like, but it was like I was talking, or Ryan was talking through a crackler, something that will crackle his voice. I mean, really bad.
Well, that's not good.
Nobody on the stream ever said anything, so I figured, okay, so that must have been okay. And I started looking other places. And Mike, you know how the sound is going out. So it was going out okay to Blab because it feeds it from the mixer. And it was going okay to the reruns machine to put it on all the channels because it feeds the audio separately. But on Stream.me, on channel 3, it was really bad when I was trying to just check it. And I said, oh, great. Looking at it, the only thing that I could come up with is the thing that separates the two machines is the new USB card that we put in, because it uses it on that channel. So I got to the point where I could actually hear it locally, Mike. I mean, just on the speaker. So I started plugging and unplugging thing, and when I was unplugging the USB from the blue and white one, it got a little bit better. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to put the UCA202 instead of this one. But I said, well, let's try. So I rebooted, and it was fine. Everything went back to normal. Of course, I spent the next few hours, again getting the recording from the Ninja, which is also being fed separately from the mixer, and it was okay. This morning, I said, okay, let's try. I went in. I started streaming on channel 3, and sure enough, it's crackling. So rebooted, and everything is okay. I'm probably gonna have to get you, Mike, when it's actually happening.
Do you think it's connected with that blue-white sound card?
Yeah.
Well, I've already told you I've got a solution
Yeah,
for
I know,
it. I've
I
just
know,
got to get
I know.
time
But
to come over there.
I want you to hear it. So
I don't,
if
I don't
somebody
need to
else,
hear it.
no. So if somebody else ever asks you, then you say, "Yeah, I know now. This is it." Just another kind of notch on your
I
belt.
probably would already recognize it, but I'll be glad to hear it. If you could save the recording of it, I can hear it.
The
And I don't need
recording
to hear it when
that recording is, I think it's gone.
we can't talk at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, that recording is gone.
Okay. Well, you could have saved a snippet of it, and I would not have to stand there waiting for it.
I did not think about this when all this was going on. I was thinking about, okay, I need to get everything right. You know what? I may actually have it in the
Let me just hang up and come back in again, see if my
Recycle
picture
bin.
updates. I'll
That's
be
cool.
right back.
Yep, go right ahead.
Okay, Mike, I think I have it. Yeah. Okay. I will not remove it from the
Did you make me a host yet?
oops, no. There you go.
Okay.
Let me see. I just want to.
All right. Nizar Yassin wants to talk with us on Blab. Let's see what he's got on his mind.
Sure.
If Blab works. Blab was not updating the chat when I logged in. I had to click on something, then all of a sudden the chat came around.
You're absolutely right. I don't see anything in the chat.
No video from you, Nizar.
You listen
Can you
to
hear
me?
us? Can you hear us? Hello.
So it's hello. How are
Nizar, can you hear us?
you? You listen to me, misters?
You got about another one shot at it, and we're going to cut you loose because you're not responding to us. Can you not hear us?
So I want to talk you about printer in the network. I want to know how what is the information to enter MFP in the server.
I don't understand your question.
I don't understand either.
So I write this. Okay.
Try typing it in chat. Maybe that'll help. I don't understand your question.
Okay.
You can stay on the seat, but just go ahead and try asking in chat. See if that'll help. I realize that you're
Okay.
struggling with English.
Okay.
Jorvik, if we're missing his question, if you could help us with that, that would be useful too. It's a multifunction printer control question. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get to the question and offer some suggestions. So we can get to the question. Anyway, carry on, Amnon.
I was just gonna. Okay, there it goes. My chat just popped.
Yeah, as usual, Blab is having issues.
Yeah, well, it's just Blab. No, I was gonna see if I if I can actually play so other people could hear it too. I wonder which one it is. Let me see. Oh, I can play it.
This double box on Blab is not very useful.
No, it's not. Well, there's not much I can do without having another machine that will another machine that will actually put the video to Blab at 16 by 9, like smaller. Try to do it with Desktop Presenter to get the things up there, but it's not. It doesn't work.
I think in Nazar's question, and I'm going to take a running leap at it. Let's see what this is. I'm not too excited about the avatar here, but we'll see what BO Your Biz has to say. Good morning. What's up? That's what I thought.
My chat just disappeared.
Nizar wants to
Niz-
control all of his multifunction printers on his network. It sounds like his network is not seeing all of his multifunction printers. That could be a very complex issue. I know for one thing that when you install a multifunction printer on your computer or on your network, you need to make sure that you have installed the appropriate software. Multifunction printers are very software, and not just drivers, but the drivers and the control software. You need to have it to showing installed for every printer. And the only other thing I'm aware of, the only other thing that I can think of is that once you have them installed and working correctly, then you have to share them on the network. And once you share them on the network, then there are two ways of doing it. You can share the printers from a single computer. Let's say if they are connected to a single computer, depending on how your network is set up, you may be able to share from a single computer, or again, depending on the capability of the printer, if you install the appropriate computer, the printer software, most modern software allows you to directly access the printer over the network using the printer's IP address or its UNC name. So having said that, those are the two things. So if I'm going to add a network printer, its MFP is irrelevant. But if I'm going to install a network printer, I put it on a computer, install the manufacturer's software for that printer, which includes the driver for that printer, then make sure that it is network aware. That is, that it is shared on the network in whatever way. Now, sometimes, again, depending on the manufacturer's software, let's say that it's installed on computer 1, everything's working fine, which is important. You go to computer 2 and say, I want to be able to access that first printer on my second computer. I install the software for that printer on the second computer. And when I'm installing that printer, I tell it to look on the network to find the printer. If it can't find the printer, that's a second issue, but it should be able to find the printer and then access it directly over the network. That's the current or the best way to do it. The alternative way is to, again, if it's only installed on that one computer as opposed to installed on the network, you could share it from that computer, then access it through the second computer using Windows networking. That's about all I can tell you. The manufacturers usually have some FAQs or app notes on how to share on the network, and they vary by manufacturer based on whatever system they choose to use. So about all I could tell you at this point, without knowing the printer and grabbing the manual, about all that I could tell you to do is go through the manual carefully and follow the steps one by one to find the problem. I hope that helps.
Mike, your video is not smooth.
Yeah, I see that. I wonder what's wrong with your system.
I don't know. If you want, I can. I tell you what. Why don't you
I'll just disconnect and reconnect.
to start with? Just refresh. Don't disconnect.
The
just
same thing.
Just refresh, and let's see if that's going to. Before I do it, because. Oh boy. Anyway. Yeah, Merle, this should be fun.
Ooh, look
All
at
right.
that picture of Steve's new dog. Wow. Say something, Steve, so people can see your dog.
It's not showing for me. I suppose it's because it's
not showing
cached.
for me either.
Really? Okay, you have to do a refresh on our end. So,
All right, but now your video is fine.
okay. So Hangouts suck.
Well, let's
Yep,
do a refresh and
is.
see if it works for me.
I doubt it's going to do it, Steve. I doubt its refresh is going to make, but I'd be surprised if it works because I'm seeing it, which is probably what the refresh would accomplish. Do you see it yet, Amnon?
I don't. I see the old one, so I'm going to refresh.
All right, go ahead and refresh on us.
There we go.
Well, I refreshed and it's still
Right.
showing no one.
Yeah.
Hang on, guys. I'll be back in a second.
And that's most unlike
No,
me to
it's
take a
still
good
the
photo.
old one.
You took it?
Yeah.
It's still the old one.
The only way for me to do it, I think, to be sure, is to clear the cache and maybe do a reboot.
I think it's on Amnon's end because I can see it. Go ahead and refresh. Now that he's refreshed, go ahead and do it one more time, Steve, real quickly.
Okay.
Beautiful dog. My next door neighbor has one that looks very much like it.
No, it's got to be in my local cache, I think.
Well, if that were true, yeah, it's still not doing it yet.
Yeah.
If that were true, then I wouldn't be seeing it.
I know, that's kind of strange.
Don't know. It's probably the Google cache here. It shows the new one in my profile, but I think I still got probably cached bits from the Hangout still in the cache there somewhere.
Yeah, but Mike sees it. I don't.
It's strange.
Well, it'll show up probably next week, but the beautiful dog. So Lucifer says we need a tech channel for web development. Depends on what you're planning to do. There are some people who talk about web development on Blab. It's not a very good forum for that because the video quality is so bad. But there's some useful things there. In fact, Nick, who's normally here. Well, this is interesting. You mentioned this. He says PHP coding custom themes for WordPress and SQL and MySQL. Boy, that's pretty heavy, but yes, that's really some good stuff. You're into C#, Java. Java, I would get out of. That's toast. So Nazar says that this application used to control all MFPs in the network and see all the errors in any job, give us statistics. At this point, I would probably, I'm guessing, but I would probably uninstall the MFP software on each computer and reinstall it to see if it goes back and recognizes the printers, because, and by the way, if any of these MFP printers is wireless, all bets are off. Lucifer, I'm not a programmer, so when you say what about Visual Basic, I have no idea. I thought Visual Basic was pretty well gone in favor of Visual Basics for applications, and but that you're way out of my league. But the WordPress, what is it? Something like 25 to 40% of all websites on the internet are WordPress. I mean, you can be very successful learning a lot with WordPress. We have one of our regular co-hosts who's a slacker today and sleeping in. develops in WordPress. He would be a good one to ask about that. He develops websites in WordPress.
Yeah, I mean, to do a channel, a show that will be about what you're talking about, that's more like instructional TV. I mean, you can't really cater to everybody, and I don't know what you will get out of it, because you're probably looking for certain. Let me take it this way, Lucifer. Would you be interested in doing that kind of a show? Let us know. It can.
You're talking to somebody on another service, are you?
I'm talking. This is somebody on Blab.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, he's in the chat. I know that, I'm gonna let Mike handle Blab, because what you just said rang something, and it's. I mean, we're keeping our audience kind of, huh? What's going on there? So
when I announce that I'm talking to someone in Blab, that should be pretty clear.
Yeah, I know, but when it keeps on going, then it's sort of like, I mean, he should jump into a seat and talk.
No, so, well, yes and no. I mean, he's in a seat, but it's no different than if we're doing chat on Computers 2K now.
On Computers 2K now, yeah, but no, yeah.
So we're good.
Anyway. Now,
sorry to confuse. I was just wondering because I wasn't seeing anything being typed. I thought perhaps my chat had frozen.
Yeah, it's not frozen. It's actually
somewhere else. Okay, no problem.
So, India.
What about India? What do you got against India?
Ransomware has locked computers in 3 major Indian banks and 1 pharmaceutical company, while the ransom note asks for 1 Bitcoin. So many computers have been infected that damages racked up millions of dollars. According to an antivirus company that analyzed the ransomware, it's not even that complex and seem the work of some amateur Russians. But it's really interesting that India is going to get hit by malware.
They caused most of it, didn't they?
That's the irony. That is the irony.
Them and China.
You
know what? I think there needs to be an international law that has a death penalty for virus writers. What do you think?
I think well, yeah. I mean, it's actually.
I'm sort of joking.
No, I'm serious. It should be a. There should be a punishment for that, and if they catch them, they do punish them. But I think that there should be a recruiting company out there that has the know-how to find these people and offer them a real job. I mean, for somebody to sit down and write a virus, they probably know. Yeah.
So you think these virus writers who are making millions of dollars a year are going to say, oh, okay, I need to go straight. Now I'm going to go work for my software vendor here making $26,000 a year?
Now, remember one thing. Not all of them are making a lot of money. Some of them don't make any money.
I don't know. They don't do it for the fun.
I mean, this has cost companies millions of dollars, but those millions of dollars did not go to the virus writer. It cost them to fix their things a lot of money. But I mean, this is like the old days when I remember in New York, you would park your car, and if you come back 10 minutes later, it'll be on blocks and things, I mean, wheels, and sometimes the whole engine will be missing.
I wish they'd still do that. I got 2 cars. I would make sure they were insured, and I'd be parking them over there overnight.
People used to actually do that. I was told that they would go to those areas and do it on purpose, so the car will be worthless and they'll collect from the insurance. But my
Right.
point was that these guys that can on the street in 10 minutes strip a car like that, imagine what kind of money they will make if they worked at a racetrack and continuously make that money.
Yeah, they could make probably 5% of that working a real job.
Yeah, but they don't do it. Oh, well. Yeah.
And have to punch a time clock and everything.
Yeah.
Just look at what they're missing.
Big time stuff.
There's an old story about a business guy who'd been very busy in his business and sort of having some issues with the family, and he decided he was going to take some time off and slow down a little bit and start smelling the roses. So he decided to go fishing. He goes out on the dock, and he's sitting there, and he's talking to the guy and asks him, he says, "So what are you doing there?" He said, "I don't do much." He said, "I'm kind of just kicking it around." He said, "You don't have a job?" "No." "You don't have a career?" "No." "What about your education?" He said, "Well, I don't know. Just never really caught on. Never really thought about it." So this guy feels an opportunity to give him some help. And he says, "Well, you know what?" He said, "Have you ever thought about it? It's never too late. You're young. You look to be healthy. How about going back and get you an education?" And the guy said, "Well, what would I do with my education?" "Well, with an education," he said, "you could go out and you can get yourself a job." He said, you can get some good income. You can take care of your family and you work your way up." He said, "It starts slow, but eventually you work your way up and get into business, and you get to the point that you can take off a whole bunch of time and go fishing." And the guy said, "Well, I already got all that." Yeah, it's sort of a point.
A lot of hard work just to continue going fishing.
That's well, it bears thinking about it, doesn't it?
Yep, it certainly does.
So a lot of us have an affiliate with Amazon, a lot of people out there. A court in Germany has ruled that the share links which Amazon provides to customers directly after making a purchase at the site are unlawful. The share functionality provides buttons which allow the consumer, to signal a new purchase via Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or email. The court, ratifying an earlier decision made at a lower court, declared that emails initiated via the share function constitute unsolicited advertising and unreasonable harassment. And in a way, that's true. I can see how they look at this like that. I mean, you click a button and it sends information to people that you may not know, that you probably don't know. Just send out that stuff. That is spam. But why did it have to come from Germany? I don't know. I guess people here don't complain. I don't remember getting any email at any time that said that somebody that I knew or somebody bought something on Amazon other than me buying stuff. Did you ever see something, Mike? Steve?
No.
No, nothing from me. Unless it's a link that you can provide to somebody, it's just an easy clickable link that you can then send through to people, perhaps in your address book, maybe.
I don't know. It's
say, look at me. I bought this. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Look at what I just bought. Look at the money I just spent. Right?
Look how poor you are and can't afford what I just bought.
Yeah. Steve, I mean, something to do with you. I've been spending a few mornings with Jorvik.
All right, he's a very intelligent guy and interesting to talk to.
Absolutely.
On Blab, is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they have a daily thing, and I put it on, and I try to participate in chat. And while I'm working, I listen, and they talk about anything, and it's very, very interesting and enlightening in many cases.
That's what we used to do back on TalkShoe days, and Pal Talk, and it's you just talk about whatever crops up, and it's quite often we go on for an hour or two, and you think, wow, the subjects we've just covered are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. But I haven't tried Blab, so I've looked at it, but I haven't actually tried it yet.
That's where Steve and I met, was on TalkShoe.
Yep, years ago.
All those years ago.
All those years ago. And speaking of Jorvik.
Yeah.
Hello all. Hello everybody.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I'm on Blab.
All right.
There is with the network.
Is there a notification thing on Blab to sort of tell the people that follow us that we're on?
Yes. Yeah. It's done through
Okay.
Twitter as sort of system. Yeah. You get
Right,
notifications.
You've got to go on blooming Twitter then to look, haven't you?
Well, no. If you've got Twitter running in the background on your PC, you get pop-up windows telling you.
Yeah. Well, I don't go to Facebook or Twitter, so I would have to physically go to look to see, in which case I may as well just go to Blab.
Yeah. Well, you get to Blab through Twitter.
Oh, okay.
You need a Twitter account. That then gives you the notifications in Blab. Yeah.
Okie dokie.
You don't have to be active on Twitter. You just have to have a Twitter account.
No, that's fine. It's a key to the door.
I have got one, and I've got Facebook too, but I generally don't go to them because I'm not interested in how many cups of coffee somebody's had that day.
You don't know that. I mean, they might have
I'm
had
just saying it really.
You might have had a new brand. They might have spilled it in their lap and qualified for a sex change operation. You don't know what's going on.
No, that's very true. And they could have had sausages for dinner.
There you go.
See what I'm missing.
See, you're missing it all, Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, it's my fault. Blame me.
All right, just get a Mac.
I thought you say blimey.
No, blame me. It's my fault. But you do also say, blimey, O'Reilly, Gavner.
Mm-hmm.
Which part of the UK says blimey?
All of it.
Lots of places. Most of it, really. Yeah, I suppose. It's better than saying lots of other things. Blimey is very... it derives, I think, from blind me. But it became blimey, which is shucks or go down.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a family show, so I shan't divulge anymore.
So what else is happening, Amnon?
What else is happening? Let's see. What do I have here? Oh, yeah. Jupiter Research. I guess that's different than the Jupiter hardware company. I don't know. Yeah. Oh no, that's Juniper. Predicts that at least 1 in 3 home routers will be used as a public Wi-Fi hotspots by 2017, and that the total installed base of such dual-use routers will reach 366 million globally by the end of 2020. Major broadband operators such as British Telecom, UPC, and Virgin Media in Europe, and several of the biggest cable TV operators in the U.S., such as Comcast and Cablevision, have adopted the home spot model as a low-cost way to rapidly expanding their domestic Wi-Fi coverage. So they're talking about you have a router, you have broadband, and they use part of that broadband to give it to the public. I sure hope there's going to be a way to stop that. I mean, of course, they can build it into the routers, into their routers that you won't be able to, but we'll find out and probably will not use it. I can see allowing somebody to ride on my internet feed, because if something happens, it's my IP that's in trouble. I don't know much about if they have ways to show that it was happening through somebody sharing the Wi-Fi in that fashion. But what are your thoughts, Mike? I mean, do you think that they should be able to do that?
You sort of lost me on the question. Do I think they should be able to do what?
To take your router, give you the 1 gig that you have, but take 200 meg of it, or 100 meg, or 50 meg, or whatever, and make it available as a Wi-Fi for people that travel close to your house?
Well, it depends. The answer to the question, it depends on what approach you're taking. If you agree to it contractually for, say, a discount, then yes, you can do that. But if it's a matter of we're just going to access your router without your permission and do it,
right,
then no, they can't do that. Now, before you stop and say, no, that's a bad idea, do you think they ought to be able to do it? Universal internet access has a lot of merit. I don't know that that's the way to do it. Now, to answer your question more directly, if I found out, I have AT&T gigabit service, which is not really gigabit, it's really about 600 by 200. But if I were to, now you've lost my video.
Yeah, I know, but keep going. It'll probably come back.
All right. So if I were to find out that they were doing that without my permission, then I would not be very happy about it. But then also, if they came in and said, all right, we're going to cut your bill $10 a month, we're going to do this, it won't impact you, we promise, and here's how they can't access your files or what have you, then I would sort of consider it. But Colin's joining us on Blab. What do you think about it, Colin?
Well, Comcast, of course, does this. And they did this without a contractual adjustment. Their methodology was to say that you've paid for X bandwidth and we're going to allocate additional bandwidth X plus Y to this service. And so Y bandwidth is allocated to their public Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots. But they never actually asked anybody about it. They said, well, we've leased this hardware to you. We still own it. We can configure it any way we want. They set up a separate Wi-Fi network that was segmented properly, as far as I could tell, and deployed it, and then proceeded to announce that they had the largest network of Wi-Fi hotspots available anywhere in the US. So, and of course, then monetized it in such a way that anyone could subscribe to Comcast service either as a residential or business user and get access to the network of hotspots freely, or subscribe only to that network of hotspots. And so they generated an additional revenue stream, acquiring those marginal customers.
But keep in mind that if they go out to the pedestal on my street and add a hotspot, that has absolutely nothing to do with me.
No, you misunderstand. You misunderstand. They're utilizing the routers that they've deployed to customers. I didn't finish my comment.
But if they are providing access through a router sitting here in my home without my permission, that's when I have a problem with it. I don't care who owns it. You know what? It's the same as that. Let's suppose you go out and rent a house That house belongs to whomever you're renting it from, probably. You don't own the house, but you own the possessory interest in that house. What that means is that if you rent a house or an apartment, and if that landlord comes, the owner comes into that house without your permission, then you can have them arrested. They don't, even though they own the house, they don't have the right to be there. So I would argue that I have a
First of all, that
possessor.
differs state to state, and second, it's not physical access, so that doesn't apply.
Why isn't it physical
I
access?
wasn't arguing that this was a positive or negative. I'm just saying this is what Comcast does currently. They've not been sued for it yet. They could be. They do offer customers a means to opt out of that service, which they don't publicize sufficiently, in my opinion. But they do offer people the option to opt out.
British Telecom is similar in England. They did a similar thing and have BT Wi-Fi is the biggest Wi-Fi open network in the UK.
They've still got it, Steve. It's still running. Yeah. It's called BT Fon.
When you run your when you install the modem router, whatever you want to call it, I think it's automatically checked on, but you can go in and disable it if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But understand that I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. What I'm saying is that this needs to be properly coordinated and authorized, particularly if there is some sort of an incentive for the homeowner to allow it to happen. My big two concerns here, and maybe these are solved. Number one concern is allowing them to use my Wi-Fi router does not in any way jeopardize my network to the outside world, which I'm assuming.
Your router, they're utilizing a router that they've provided to you and they've leased to you for a fee.
I understand, but I'm telling you that if I'm leasing that router for my use, unless they have and Lucifer says it's in the contract, and I don't doubt it, but
it's almost certainly in the contract, sure.
But you guys are wrong when you say leased router, their configuration. Not true unless they reserve that right in the contract.
Of course they do. They're not going to hook you to their network unless they're using their router firmware. Even if you deploy your own router, if you go out and purchase a cable modem for use with Comcast or Time Warner or whatever, they'll give you a set of modems that will work, hardware models that will work with their network. But then they will proceed to deploy their own firmware on that router, on that modem. I'm also making the distinction, or I generally make the distinction between a modem and a router. That is, you as a customer should always have your own Wi-Fi router behind the cable modem that you acquire from your cable provider, so you can have greater control over your Wi-Fi network deployed within your home anyway.
Well, it depends.
Along those same lines, in order to avoid this particular problem, you should always make sure that you've required the cable provider to configure their modem in a bridged rather than a routed configuration. That way, you don't even have to worry about what they're doing on the other side of it. Your capacity is bridged. You're not having it. You've removed an extra hop from the network. And you have direct control over the physical hardware that manages your Wi-Fi within your home.
Okay, my understanding is, and I'm certainly willing to be corrected, but my understanding is that the modems provided by AT&T Gigapower, or for starters, you have to use their modem. There is no bridge mode. There's actually a what is the mode?
It's a router.
No, but there's for heaven's sakes, whenever you put it's open to the outside world.
That may very well be the case with AT&T Gigapower. That may be the case with other specific providers. In the case of Comcast and Time Warner in the U.S., the devices they provide are able to be configured in either a bridged or a routed mode. You can either acquire them with or without a Wi-Fi transceiver, so that you can utilize or not their own Wi-Fi infrastructure or their own Wi-Fi hardware. Generally, I find that you want to be deploying your own Wi-Fi hardware. You're going to get a higher quality transceiver if you're buying dedicated hardware for those
Right.
purposes.
But I can't do that on AT&T Gigapower. What is the mode where you open everything to the outside world on your router, for heaven's sakes?
You're talking about a DMZ?
Yeah, DMZ. There's supposedly is a way. There's a guy named Brian Land on AT&T. He's over in Apex, and you may even know him, Colin, since he's local. And he has a way, using some sort of awkward system, to be able to bypass their router using their modem. But you've got to be a network engineer to do it, and you have to refresh the configuration every 2 weeks whenever they flash their systems, when they reboot their systems. But
yeah, that wouldn't be surprising. Yeah.
So it's not a ready option to me. I'm not a network engineer. I know less than enough to even be dangerous, but I do understand what bridge mode is, have always operated in bridge mode. But again, let me go back and restate what I was saying. I'm not necessarily saying that this system is bad. I am in favor of universal internet access, so long as it is not so long as I'm not funding it. And the reason I say that is if you come to my house and if you come to my house and say, well, what can I access your Wi-Fi? Sure, I've got a guest network. I told my next door neighbors, I gave them the name for my guest network. I said, if your internet goes down, you guys are welcome to connect to my internet using the guest network, because as well as it can be, it's firewalled from my systems, and I don't really keep a hold.
Yeah.
Say again?
As it should be.
Yeah. And I don't mind doing that. I mean, if I noticed some sort of slowdown as to what's going on, I'd probably be doing some research, and if I found out they're downloading kiddie porn using my network, that'd be a problem. But at this point in time, I know both of them. I would be surprised to see that happen, but I don't consider it to be impossible.
Yeah.
Colin,
I think we're for the most part, I think we're in agreement. As long as the provided service is not impacting the service that you've paid for, is not it is utilizing capacity over and above that which you've paid for, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. I do have a problem with the idea of their failing to provide you an easy opt-out. To the extent that they have failed to do so. But beyond that, if they can subsidize the service somewhat, utilizing that strategy, that's great. I guarantee you they're going to try to steer clear of trying to or of allowing you to reacquire some of that subsidy for allowing them to do that. I mean, if you opt out of their service, they're not going to charge you more having opt out of their universal Wi-Fi hotspot service.
So far.
Well, right. I mean, if they start doing that, that's going to be a huge problem. But
they don't care. I mean, they're even exploring the data cap thing again. I mean, the acquisition of Time Warner by Comcast, there supposedly is an FCC agreement in place or mandate that they will not even discuss data caps for 3 years.
Right.
Who knows where we're going to end up in 3 years? I mean, theoretically, Google could be here in 3 years. I mean, we're in Raleigh and we're a Google city. They're actually building.
Yeah, Google's supposed to be in Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill by now.
Oh, okay. They are in Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill by now. They are here building. However, they are not here with a complete system that works. And I'm told, and you may read some of the same resources that I do, but I'm told with good authority that once they actually get their plant up and working and sign up the first customer, it is as much as 2 years before some neighborhoods are even lit up.
Easily. Yeah. I mean, they need to run fiber to the doorstep, that last mile for every neighborhood, and they're not going to do it for every neighborhood, even at what they would consider full deployment. They're not going to cover the entire region. They're going to cover the regions where they have the highest population density.
That is correct.
But communities X, Y, and Z, and then they're going to skip the ones that are 20 years old, like mine. I'm completely screwed.
Well, mine's 20 years old, and AT&T went down my street.
What carrier are they using there? Are you running fiber to the doorstep, or are they doing something else?
I got a fiber to my side of my house.
Wow, that's cool.
I've got 1 gigabit up and down, which is really 600 by 200.
Yeah.
Colin, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
You were talking about bridge mode and all that. Why stop at getting their router? I mean, their modem, instead of what?
Why not use their modem?
No.
Well, generally because you want to avoid the
No, the other way around. Why not tell them, keep your modem? I don't need it. I have my own modem and I have my own router.
Yeah, plenty of people do that.
A lot of people do, yeah.
Sure. And you avoid the lease fee, which is like 10 or 15 bucks a month. And you're deploying your own hardware, but they're still going to flash it with their firmware. And that's the way that they maintain, they consider that a network security issue.
I don't know about them flashing anything. I think the only thing they take is the MAC address to make sure that.
Well, in the case of Time Warner, they'll flash it with their own firmware. It's possible that other providers will not do that. When I looked at it with Time Warner, they flash it with their own firmware.
When I got the last modem, the 6183, she just asked me what's the MAC address, and I gave it to her, and she said, "Okay, now you can connect it and it'll work." So I don't know that maybe they did it afterwards. I have no idea.
Well, I have not actually opted for that option for myself, so I'm not entirely certain. Lucifer in the comments says that's not entirely true. Are you referring to they're flashing their own firmware to your modem, or, I mean, you can reflash it as far as I know thereafter.
Yeah, they will deny you tech support. That's correct, because, I mean, to a point. I mean, if it has to do with the modem, I called for tech support many a times. When the system is down, they will talk to you. But if it's the modem, and they know which modem, and I never heard them say, "But we can't do that for you."
No, I've had plenty of cases where they've swapped out my modem multiple times.
Yeah.
And so to the extent where I'm reasonably happy paying the lease fee, I mean, it just doesn't play into it really.
That was the case.
Recently, Time Warner tried to screw me over on the fixed price that they offered for 1 year at the start of service.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird because my house was under construction for 7 months and there was no service of any kind. When they reinitiated service, they had to rerun coax to the house. So how they can call that existing service, I don't know. But I'm having to fight them on that now. That's fun.
Interesting.
Interestingly, in North Carolina, the cable franchise agreement is statewide now and administered by the state attorney general's office, which is great for any sort of dispute. They will handle the binding arbitration. They will handle all the costs associated with it. So merely by calling the attorney general's office and filing a complaint, that's all you have to do. And two, you've instantly caused the cable company greater costs than it would take for them to just provide you what you asked for to begin with. Because in my case, it's, a difference in total cost of like $600 over the course of the contract. So they would have been better off just giving me what I wanted. And in a month, they will be giving me what I wanted. So.
Well, who's your carrier now?
Time Warner.
Which service do you have?
30 megabit up and 6 down.
They don't go to 30, do they? I thought they only went to 20.
They go to 50 now. Actually, I think they go to 150 now.
Up?
Yeah, down.
Down. Yeah, they go to 300 down.
Yeah, I've got the 300 by 20.
Oh, really? Okay. No, I have 50 down and 30 down and
30 by 5 or 30 by 20.
Yeah, by 5. But in fact, I get like 45 by 7 or something,
right,
which is cool.
Right. Now, if you're going to go for the higher one, Oh, you're getting their own modem, so that doesn't matter. But
So Lucifer is providing some great information in chat on Blab. He's worked with multiple ISPs. He knows a lot of the inside stuff that's going on here. And I will pass. Charles in our Computers 2K Now chat has a question. It says, does anybody know of a useful online VoIP line quality test that does not require Java? And I'm wondering if you guys know an answer to that to that question. I suggested that he take a look at DSL reports. And
yeah, the vast majority of the VoIP tests, the ones that actually do a jitter test, are all Java based, just because they originated at the time when Java was the framework of choice. I imagine there are some Flash based ones out there, and as you say, DSL reports is the most likely source, I would think.
He said they have line tests, but he has not seen one specific for the VoIP MOS scoring. I don't even know what MOS scoring is. What's MOS scoring?
MOS, in this context, I'm not sure what that acronym is either.
So I don't know. Oh, not much help, Charles. But
yeah, Charles.
Lucifer says you need to learn to use Google.
Yes, LMGTFY, my favorite website.
Well, Lucifer made an interesting comment I was going to talk about here a moment ago. It says, I don't know why people are thinking Java is going out of style, because it's not. Well, if it's not, then why did Oracle announce that they're discontinuing support of the browser plugin?
Right.
Now, granted, that's just the browser plugin.
That's not the same thing as it going out of style.
Well,
Google and Android are making huge amounts of money on Java. Oracle's pissed off. They're just not making any of it themselves.
Because of security problem. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the sooner Java disappears, the better.
And it will. This is the beginning of the end, kind of.
We think. We don't know that. And I mean, I saw that same thing that that whenever it was announced that the browser extension was disappearing, I said, whoa, I mean, the browser, the plugin. I said, yeah, I said, people are going to read that as Java is being discontinued. That wasn't the case. No, and I never thought that. But it was interesting to see that it was the plugin that was going away. But I mean, you see these things happen over and over and over again. So
yeah, right at the end of the tunnel has been turned on.
Flash is no longer supported on mobile devices. Does that mean Flash is going away? No, it means Flash is being renamed Creative. No, Flash was renamed Creative Cloud something or other. But it's still out there from a developer standpoint.
Well, see, but Lucifer's disagreeing with you. He said Flash is not being used.
Well, it's been being discontinued from it was discontinued some time ago from mobile browsers. It was the product itself was renamed and reintroduced into the Creative Cloud suite about a month and a half ago, maybe. I don't remember the exact new name for it, but the mechanism still exists. You're still going to find SWF files all over the place, but it's just not going to be quite so user facing, because the majority of that content will in fact be deployed. About one third of what was previously output as Flash output is now being deployed as HTML5. The remainder is apparently still Flash. That adjustment will continue over time, and you will see Flash vanish eventually, but it's not anywhere in the roadmap, in Adobe's roadmap that they've announced thus far.
Most of the CDNs that we're using, that the way that you guys are watching it now, are in Flash still. But if you go to channel 3, stream.me, and click on the cog, you will see that, I mean, you can adjust the resolution. The top one there is actually HTML5 beta, and that's what they are supposed to switch to HTML5. And some of them did already, but most of them didn't. and it's
Right.
still working. So obviously, Flash is still there.
Yeah, I mean, also you need to recognize that Flash video is not the end all and be all of Flash.
Right.
Flash was initially an animation framework.
Yeah.
And so it's not going anywhere. It'll be there for
Well,
quite some time.
I would think that it will go away, but it's going to take a lot longer than what we
Yes.
think.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
would tend to.
Well,
That's
okay.
better articulated. Yes.
But here's my question about that, and I have a vested interest in the answer here. But so if things are going more and more mobile, and Flash is not supported on mobile platforms, how can it continue to be a viable medium?
It's not so much that it's viable or not; it's that it's not going to be killed off overnight.
Well, I don't argue with that.
Yeah. No, I think we're on the same page.
I've got a business that's totally Flash based. It's going to cost me a fortune to go to HTML5. We just had a discussion 2 days ago about whether it was time to make the switch, and I said no.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I had a client 10 years ago where we were thinking we needed to move off of a Flash-based video solution, move to HTML5, and at that time these things had just been released. The HTML5 video standards had just been deployed, and we looked at it very carefully. There was a whole JavaScript library out there, Video.js, that implemented a very nice JavaScript-based video player. But it wasn't mature enough. And here we are today, 10 years later, still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've probably got another 7 or 8 years before you really need to buckle down and migrate. But I mean, if that's your primary revenue stream, you need to take a good look at it.
No, not primary. It's a bonus. But having said that, the by the time, if there really is that much time left, by the time that much time passes, then the content will be so dated that it's time to update it anyway. So
right,
5 years I can live with.
I think that's really the scale that we're talking about. And then they hope that people will simply not deploy new content using old frameworks and then let the old content die off naturally.
Right, and Mike, it's the same reason why you are not changing from Flash is because it's a lot of money, and those big guys are saying, "Well, this is still working." They may be working in the back, developing newer technologies, but at this point they're using what supposedly they were told, oh, it's not going to work. I mean, what they were saying that Firefox is not going to have Flash in it anymore, right? Wasn't that the word a couple of months ago?
I don't know.
It still shows Flash video.
So Guy Cook, you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, I did. That's why I popped in. Thanks for letting me have a seat. Finally made it. Amnon's been bugging me forever. And I said, oh, computer's 2K now. I better do it. But on regards to Flash, Lucifer's made some good comments and chat about this. And I wanted to add, Adobe's not going broke and they haven't abandoned the project. I got a Flash update just the other day. So if it's dying, they're not helping it along by abandoning the project, renaming it and having it come out in another flavor, because desktop computers aren't going to go away. I don't think Flash is going to go away either. There's too many things in mobile that use Flash that are happening right now. Maybe it's not playing back videos, but there's other implementations of the Flash technology that we aren't seeing go away. And I have to support them from time to time. So I think it's kind of premature. You could probably put that on the back burner, Mike, about updating the website to make it HTML5 ready. HTML5's got a couple of weeks to go to be like the real deal anyway. So it's not something you got to get excited about. Anyway, thanks for letting me have a seat. I'm listening and lurk on the side. I don't have to have a camera.
Thanks for jumping in.
Have a good one. All right, take care.
You too.
They,
It's certainly not as slow moving as IPv6, which has been on the back burner
Right.
for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
what's the benefit of? I mean, is IPv6 a benefit or a necessity? I mean,
it will eventually be a necessity. It just provides a larger namespace, larger addressable space, so you can add more devices across the network. Most of that's been addressed through private networking.
It's not essential at the moment. NAT takes care of a lot of things.
Right. I mean, the massive deployment of NAT across these networks was unforeseen when they first started trumpeting the problem of addressing, and also at that time you didn't have layer 7 routers, you didn't have devices that would do proper VLANs, and so a lot of the concerns there have been addressed along the way. But you'll see that more and more devices. I guess every device that I have now supports IPv6 to one extent or another. You can turn it on or off.
New hardware is getting ready for it. It's preparing for it by putting it in there, but it's not being used yet.
Yeah. To go back to what Charles was mentioning, so he put a note in there. He says MOS measures subjective call quality for a call. MOS scores range from 1 for unacceptable to 5 for excellent, and VoIP calls often are in the 3.5 to 4.2 range.
Huh.
So I guess
I've never come across that acronym.
Yeah, I never seen this before.
And I was in the telecom industry for a bunch of years. Wow.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting. And talk about IPv6. Going back to that for a second. We are still incorporating or just adding IPv6 to our network on Delta Force because people are asking for it. But as far as needing it for our own, no. I mean, I don't know. I have like 8 C classes, which I have a whole bunch of IPv4 addresses still. But it is a situation where there are, I guess, providers somewhere that don't, if you are on IPv6, they should translate IPv4 or they leave their customers out in the cold as far as communicating with the rest. So even now that they gave us the IPv6 a few years ago, and it was understood that it's not pure IPv6 as far as we are talking to level 3. It is both. It is IPv4 and IPv6, and they will translate it, and we're supposed to translate it because we're still.
It's done entirely transparently at this point.
Oh yeah, it's transparent to the user.
There's no configuration required for the most part.
Right.
It just functions, which is really entirely the objective.
Yeah.
And it will continue to function like that ad infinitum. I mean, there's no.
Right. The user will never know. The user is blind to this. The only time that sometimes I come into a problem is when a customer calls in and they got blacklisted in the firewall for some reason, and I ask them for their IP address, and they'll go to what is my IP, and they'll get an IPv6. And I said, no, that's not good for me. I need the IPv4.
Wow, I hadn't seen what is my IP return an IPv6 address yet.
Yeah, it's
that's cool.
Yeah, but so I end up telling him to go to ip4.me, which will only return an IPv4 address to
IP. So what is my IP's doing IPv6 for a long time?
Yeah, but I mean they were doing both.
Well, I would think that all of them would be doing both. To be honest.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when I talked to a customer and they went there and they're reading me the IPv6. And I said, oh, stop. That's not going to work for me. And I said, isn't there another number there that has just 3 digits, dot, 3 digits, or 2 digits, dot? And said, no. Said, okay, so just go to ip4.me, and now I go there directly, tell them to go directly, and it works. So these are some of the problems that you probably, the average user will never come across and will never really bother. But yeah, to go back to what we were talking about, it's the same thing. It's, we're running out of IPv4. We're running out of IPv4. We heard that for years. And we're still using IPv4.
Yeah, it will happen one day, though, Amnon.
Oh, yes,
I'm sure it'll come in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
I mean, all of these things will happen eventually.
I mean, for people that don't understand.
Eventually, we'll have matter energy transport and whatever else. Eventually, but
eventually, maybe not in our lifetime, right? Well, not mine. Maybe yours, Colin.
My favorite joke along those lines is, "What do we want? Time travel. When do we want it?
Now.
It's irrelevant."
But for those of you, those people that don't understand, just to give you something that you can relate to, is phone numbers. We used to be able to just dial the phone number. Then they start adding area codes within within your own area code, and now you have to dial the area code for local calls in many cases. And that's why it's just to get more numbers, because there are more people, and they're running out.
Well, that's why you had 800 numbers, then you had 888 numbers,
right?
Then you had 877 numbers, then 866 and 855.
Yep.
They're all toll-free numbers, but they just had to keep allocating new
exchanges,
new exchanges to
area codes. Yeah. And that's why, to get more numbers. And that's what they will do with the IPv6. That's why it's there, because the IPv4, supposedly we ran out of IPs to give to providers to communicate with.
I think there are enough companies.
Officially, they stopped allocating Class C address blocks back in something like 97 or so, I think.
They wanted to stop, but they had to keep on going.
Well, when I tried to get one in 97, I wasn't able to as a startup. Right, of course. I mean, I was trying to get it allocated from what is now ICANN. And now the only way to do that is to get it allocated from larger network providers, which is not the way. I mean, not the preferred method, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. But if you get it, it really. I mean, when you come down to practicality, it's fine. It's just that you're married to them.
Right. It's a functioning solution.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't the address blocks are no longer portable.
Right. So. And it's amazing when they give you the smallest, the /56, I think, on the on /64 on the IPv6, because they can't give you any smaller subnet, and that and that /64 segment of IPv6 has more IPs in it that the whole internet of today has in it. It's kind of blows your mind.
It's a little insane, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but hey, that's the way they work.
Yeah, well, I mean,
used to say it would address every atom in the universe.
What
that
you
was
say,
a statement at one time. They used to say it would address every atom in the universe.
Yeah, supposedly.
Wildly exaggerated, but that's what they used to say.
Yeah, but that's what they thought when they started the internet with the IPv4, right? Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Well, it all goes back to Bill Gates saying, who in the world would ever need more than 640K RAM, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
Very large intranets these days, though, private intranets, use NAT very successfully. It gets them into the internet and makes things work. So NAT works very well, really.
Now let's shift here to something that is more will affect each and every one of us and we can relate to. Eric Springer describes his recent troubles with Amazon to highlight one of the biggest weak points in information security: customer service. You can use complex passwords and two-factor authentication all you want. All it takes is a low-level representative trying to be helpful, and your account information is now compromised. In this case, a bad actor was able to use Amazon's online chat support and fake address to get the rep to tell him Springer's real address and phone number. That was enough to commit fraud with a couple of unrelated online services. Springer complained, but months later, the same thing happened again. That time, he had Amazon put a note on his account not to give out his detail. But that didn't help. The attacker contacted Amazon phone support line instead and gathered yet more information. Springer writes, at this point, Amazon has completely betrayed my trust. 3 times I have done absolutely everything in my power to secure my account, but it's hopeless. I am in the process of closing my Amazon account and migrated as much to Google services, which seem significantly more robust to stopping these attacks. His advice for fixing this: never do customer support unless the user can log into their account. The only exception to this would be if the user forgot the password, and there should be a very strict policy. He also says that email services should make aliases easier, and whois protection should be default. It is amazing. I don't understand why anybody at Amazon will give the user information. I mean, why do I need to at any point talking with Amazon, why do I need them to give me my address and phone number?
Yeah, social engineering has always been the easiest route for hackers.
Yeah.
And it will always be the easiest route for hackers, no matter what we try to do to secure that. The old joke is the most secure computer is the computer without a keyboard.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the problem is inevitably between the keyboard and chair.
Yep.
So.
And it just amazes me that things like that, with all the problems that are going around, that things like this will still happen now.
There was an old study, and this probably goes back 12, 13 years, but there was an old study where people were doing penetration testing. They did a survey of an employee base and said, and the survey was saying, are you satisfied with your internet service? Are you satisfied with the IT department? And then one of the questions was, what is your password? You know what percentage of people filled that in?
What?
27%. So
yeah, that's
of it's user education, but in the case of the gentleman you mentioned, yeah, there's not a whole lot he can do. He just needs to find a provider that understands the risks of social engineering.
Yeah. And somebody that can take advantage of this is it's unbelievable what you can do. What about the people they were talking about? People that are walking into offices and say, I'm with such and such, and I need to work on your network, and they give them the computer. You know, they say, can I just do something here? And they get on the computer right there and manipulate the network because the girl or whoever just let him do it. Guy's back. How is he?
No. You want to take that one, Colin?
Dynamic IPs causes issues with Google Analytics filtering. Can we avoid it? No, you can't avoid dynamic IPs. That's one of the issues of IPv4 limitations. You have ISPs out there that have oversubscribed their networks in a variety of different ways by the number of IPs available in the address blocks that they've been able to deploy, by the capacity across their network that they've been able to deploy. And dynamic IP allocation is another of those tools, along with network address translation, that allow these providers to service customers in greater quantities than the sheer number of IP addresses an IPv4 would otherwise allow.
DDNS will help, though. That will direct stuff to you, even if your IP address is changing.
Yeah, I think Eileen is talking about analytics, though. She wants to be able to know who a customer is based on their IP address. And the answer is no, that's not going to work. The way you're going to have to do that is by setting a cookie and referring back to it to identify that customer. And that's what most modern analytics packages do.
You can probably narrow it down to the ISP, because it'll narrow down to that, but it won't go any further.
Oh, sure. I mean, every address block is assigned to an ISP, and you can know instantly what ISP you're dealing with, and probably what state and maybe what town that customer might be located within.
Yeah.
Based on a dynamic address range.
Yeah, you won't get it accurate, but it'll be a near miss sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, dynamic DNS is very cool from a customer standpoint. It's not useful to address Eileen's concerns. Dynamic DNS will allow me, for example, as a customer, as a residential customer, to assign a fixed host name to my outward-facing IP, my WAN address, and provided I have my cable modem in bridge mode, I can then access services within my network if I chose to expose them.
Yeah, DDNS is only incoming anyway, outgoing isn't it?
Yeah, that wouldn't address Eileen's issue. Let's see.
I'm missing something here. The internet cannot work with dynamic DNS. I mean, dynamic IPs, or with IPs that are not part of the internet. Your local IPs, the 192.168 or 10.10, cannot be routed anywhere other than your static IP. At the time, this is what the internet sees you as a real IP, but all the rest of them are behind. So what kind of
So what happens is you have your NAT box, your network address translation box, that figures out and maintains connections behind the box to determine what services are connecting on the public IP. So suppose your public IP is 8.8.8.8.
Right.
And for those of you who know, that's Google's public DNS IP address, but it's not beside the point. So your public IP is 8.8.8.8. Your private IP might be 192.168.1.6. Your network address translation box has assigned two IPs. On the WAN side, the wide area network side, you have 8.8.8.8. On the inside, you have 192.168.1.1, which is the router address, and then can then assign 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, and so on to devices within your private network. When your devices in your private network attempt to communicate with services on the outside, those services on the wide area network will always see it as the request coming from 8.8.8.8. And the network address translation box will then make sure that whatever connections are being maintained on behalf of a device on the inside are routed to the proper device on the inside of the network.
So
it's TCP ports that actually do the translation, if you like, from a local IP address to the main outside IP address, and then that sorts out where traffic needs to go from to. It's all done with TCP porting.
But somebody explain to me what I'm missing here again. Analytical information comes from, that you're looking for will come from your website, which is on a static IP, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Eileen trying to get analytic information about one of her computers that is on her local network?
All right. No, her concern is she's got a customer or someone who is trying to evaluate traffic on their particular website, and they want to exclude the traffic from that they are generating themselves as the administrator of the site.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you tag that traffic with, I mean, you have the website set a cookie for that user and exclude those sessions for that
Okay,
username.
I see what you're talking about.
And so you do this within analytics. You can do this. You just have to make sure that you've set a cookie that identifies your traffic as administrative user traffic. That way, it doesn't matter what IP address it's coming from.
It's similar to caller ID in a phone, where you assign a phone number to a name, so that when it comes up in the window, it says a name rather than a phone number. It's a similar system.
I don't know. That's kind of a stretch of a metaphor, but it works, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, don't rely on the IP address to uniquely identify a user, because while it does uniquely identify a user within a session, it may not a week from today or a month from today. That said, your IP address as a user doesn't change that often. In modern times where you have continuous connections, cable or DSL service, the only time your IP address is going to change is when your ISP refreshes that modem, reboots it, or you reboot it, which is not going to happen that often. It might happen once a month. So it really, it's less of an issue than you might think.
Right. Unless you're trying to split hair there, then how much of that traffic is going to be your own? You know, what do you see?
Well, that's the thing. With a low traffic website, you might find that 50% of it might be your own. It really depends on what scale you're operating at.
Mike, you were going to say something?
I don't remember now.
Okay.
So Eileen is jumping in here, and she has a question. So here we go.
Oh, Eileen. Miss Eileen.
I just wanted to provide a little bit more detail because I did a little tutorial about filtering out your own IP from Google Analytics. And just so happened to get on a blab with Kevin. I think he's in Ireland. PPP Insiders. Do you know who that is?
Not off the top of my head. No.
Kevin Scullion. Kevin Scullion.
Yes, right. He's from Scotland, I think.
Yes, Scotland.
Scotland. And he said that his IPs change almost daily.
Really?
The internet service provider that he uses, they constantly change the IPs.
If they can't maintain connectivity for more than a day, that's a huge problem.
It's not about connectivity. It's just the way, I don't know. I don't.
Well, that's the point. But connectivity cannot be maintained if you're changing your IP address. You've clearly dropped the connection and reestablished the connection, even if it was for a fraction of a second. That was what happened.
Okay, but now, I don't know why they do it.
Well, they might do that in order to maintain a rotation for the purposes of clearing unused IP addresses. I mean, I have several colo providers who frequently send me an IP justification form. Why are you using this static IP that you've paid for? Are you still using it? Can you give it back to us? You know, IPs are IP address v4 addresses are in relatively short supply.
This is exactly would be the reason if that provider of his does not have hundreds of IPs and they have thousands of customers suddenly, they're going to have to rotate these. They say, okay, this guy didn't use it for that long. Let's take the IP, give it to this guy who needs it now. And when he comes back, he gets a different one. And they rotate it between the people that are using it. It's just like on your phone. Your phone stays connected all the time, but your phone's IP address changes almost by the minute sometimes, depending on what you're doing. I can sit there.
We could also speak briefly on about how DHCP works.
Yeah.
Where DHCP is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. The mechanism by which your ISP assigns you an IP address when your device comes onto the network. It says, I am a new device on the network, give me an IP address. And the DHCP server says, here is the IP configuration information you need for this network. This is the router address, this is your address, and this is the broadcast address. then your device accepts that address or rejects it. Having accepted the address, the lease is good for a fixed period of time, and that's configurable on a network by network basis. So it looks like the gentleman you're speaking of has a network where the DHCP lease is for a relatively short period of time. Now, optimally, most DHCP servers will try and reassign the same address to the same device even after lease expiry. So if he's getting a different address each time, it's because his lease has expired and his device has not reacquired an address within a reasonable period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it most likely relates to the fact that they're trying to cheap out and have a small address block and they've oversubscribed their network with more customers than addresses. The other side of this, of course, is a bandwidth issue where, and it doesn't directly address your concern, but you can also oversubscribe networks with regard to bandwidth. Most cable providers will do that. And as distinct from DSL providers, where you have a switch network throughout the entire network, in cable service, you often have a bridge network among a neighborhood. So, for example, most recently in the U.S., you have cable providers as of last May switching entirely to digital cable service. So you no longer have an analog signal passing through the coax carrier. This frees up capacity on that cable so that they can provide more digital channels in place of what was previously analog. But it brings to light exactly how they do this. They're not actually delivering every channel to every customer all the time,
right?
Because you might be subscribed to 200, 300 different channels. They're not delivering all of that content across your carrier at any given time. They're only delivering the content that you're calling for. So, for example, when you switch as a digital TV subscriber, when you switch from channel 2 to channel 3, it might take a few seconds for channel 3 to come up. That's because nobody else in your neighborhood is watching channel 3, and it actually had to be switched and buffered throughout the network and delivered to you.
So do you have any suggestions?
Whereas if your neighbor was watching channel 3, it would come on almost instantly.
Okay.
Just like if everyone is watching the Super Bowl in your neighborhood, they're only delivering that content to the subnet that defines your neighborhood once.
Okay.
So Eileen, you what do you mean a solution or a...
Well, because there's other filters that you can apply in Google Analytics. I'm assuming besides just the IP address, so that you can exclude your own traffic.
I would say that Google is only looking at for traffic. The only thing they can look at is the IP address. That's your name. That's your name.
You can partition the traffic within Google and define cookies to look for to identify certain traffic segments, and that's the methodology I would use.
That wouldn't be under filters then. I don't know.
I think it's called partitioning. I may not have that right. I don't have Google Analytics up in front of me at this.
Okay, so he just has to find another alternative other than...
Yeah, what he needs to do is he needs to go into his CMS and define a cookie that is unique to his class of user. For example, if he's using WordPress, he's an administrative user, and so set it up so administrative users have a cookie set that says, I am an administrative user. And then all that traffic will be passed through analytics with
probably a plugin for it.
Right, there almost certainly is.
He is using WordPress because he's helping Donald Brandt with his WordPress set up on the Blab Cafe. So I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've not actually tried to do a lot with traffic segmentation there. I wonder if Stephen has. Is he on here?
He's still. You mean from SciFunk? He's still.
Stephen's there.
Oh, you're on
maybe,
your audio.
but
Okay, it's back now.
but yeah, you can do those sorts of more advanced audience segmentation.
Okay, that's what I'll recommend to him because
You can do.
I
You can
that was
take
a-
those steps.
I thought I was just giving, a tutorial. I didn't know he was going to say, "Yeah, well, I can't do that." I'm like, "Oh gosh."
All right.
There's always that next level. So this is tutorial number 2.
Right?
Exactly.
No,
Look at it.
Colin. I think this is a subject that you need to do a blab on because.
Well, no, I'm saying this is a subject that Eileen needs to produce her second tutorial on. Look at Google Analytics audience segmentation and the tools around that, and provide that to your user base, because that's the next level tool set offered by Google for that purpose.
Now here's a challenge, Eileen.
Okie dokie.
I look forward to seeing it. Are you going to have it up tomorrow?
I may, if I go in there and figure out what to do. Well, I know you in segments you can filter out by country and all of that, but then I don't know enough about
there are options to filter by cookie and by other things that can be session based.
All right. You guys can talk about this later.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, good morning. Well, afternoon or evening, depending upon where you are. Like Jorvik, I'm sure it's not morning for you.
Jorvik.
Jorvik.
Yeah. Jorvik. You're not like a Jorvik.
Yeah, it's afternoon here, Eileen. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. It's not morning. Okay. And everybody else, just wanted to say hi. And thank you for
Thank you, Eileen.
Thanks for jumping in.
Okay. Oh, there's Todd. Hey, Todd. How you doing? And Steven. But you guys ain't give me no props. Can't I get some props just for coming in here? Thank you. All right. Bye.
Nice. She's leaving. Oops.
Oh, Eileen. Let's see. We were talking about TV, and apparently something happened that I really wasn't aware of. But it says cable TV industry lobby groups expressed their displeasure with a Federal Communication Commission plan to bring competition to the set-top box market, which could help consumers watch TV on different devices and thus avoid paying cable box rental fees.
We're probably talking about cable cards. That goes back
set-top
15 years.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you mute Lucifer?
I don't think I can mute him. I think you have to.
Oh, is that you cannot?
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, he's.
I don't even see him there. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah. We can jump back in a minute.
They're talking about set-top, so yeah, it could be cards that go into the computer.
Right. So cable card was a standard defined at least 15 years ago. There have been several generations of it. The concept is you can lease a cable card that you can insert into any set-top box or tuner card. For example, Elgato or what's the other? Hauppauge Computer Works provide tuner cards that you can put into your computer in place of a cable set-top box, and you would then install what they call a cable card, which is slightly larger than like a PCMCIA card.
Colin,
that would uniquely identify your service to the cable provider and provide the authentication required.
Colin, all this is the technical stuff. Here we're talking about policy stuff. So let me finish. FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler proposed new rules that would force pay TV companies to give third parties access to TV content, letting hardware makers build better set-top boxes. Customers would be able to watch all the TV channels they're already paying cable companies for, but on a device that they don't have to rent from them. The rules could also bring TV to tablets and other devices without need for a rented set-top box. The system would essentially replace cable card with a software-based equivalent. So he's giving here, I mean, it's just a proposal. I don't know how, you know, HBO, I mean, if you take a cable card, you probably can't get HBO on it unless you're paying somebody because they don't provide it to them. Now he's saying that he's proposing that they will provide it. So, but at the same token, there's something here that says as long the people will be able to watch it as long as they paying the provider, their provider. So that means that I can get a card, a set-top box, some kind of a box, and put it and tell Time Warner, take that box back. I don't need your box. I've got my own box, and pay them. But the signal's still coming from Time Warner.
Right. So the cable card standard was defined at a time when you couldn't really do meaningful authentication in software in this regard. So
yeah, it has to be.
They use hardware authentication, a hardware authentication device to enable the QAM encryption that's used to encrypt most channels now. Where previously clear QAM was the method by which channels were delivered in the clear, meaning back 3 or 4 years ago when you had an analog TV and you plugged it into your cable service, even though over-the-air broadcasts were all HD and all digital, you could still get analog service through your cable provider. That content was delivered through what they call clear QAM. But QAM, the encrypted version, required a device. And so they moved that device from being a set-top box to a cable card, which you could acquire from a cable provider and insert into your own choice of set-top box. This is the next evolution there. And most of these content providers have already done this, and they've gone over the top and skipped over the cable provider entirely, most notably HBO with HBO Now, where they're allowing subscribers to subscribe directly to their channel at essentially the same price that they would subscribe to that channel through a cable provider, and get that content directly. In the case of cable provider authentication, they're using wow, it just went out of my head.
Well, let me just give here while you're thinking back. Our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K voice on Skype, and you are tuned to Computers 2K call-in. I mean, Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. It's fun.
So the methodology I was going to cover quickly is OAuth, which is an authentication mechanism whereby you can utilize one authentication provider to authenticate to a second content provider. And so there's OAuth 1 and OAuth 2. They're very different. OAuth 1 was not widely deployed, not widely used. OAuth 2 is utilized by, for example, WordPress.com, Google, Yahoo, Facebook, and pretty much every cable provider. So, for example, if you go on to HBOGo.com, which is their cable-related internet HBO offering, you will be prompted to authenticate to your cable provider. They're authenticating using OAuth 2. Once the cable provider delivers a response saying this authentication is validated, then the content provider, HBO, will then proceed to provide that content. It's not clear to me why these new regulations are required, because most of these content providers are already doing this. Unless there's something in those regulations that requires them to authenticate with the cable provider rather than simply going over the top and selling their content directly to the customer.
Okay. Mike, you're quiet.
But,
well,
let's see.
I was going to ask a question. I want you to explain again, Mike, that device that you were talking about the last week is a sound card. I'm seeing.
What are you talking about?
What was it? The Lexicon?
Yeah, Lexicon Alpha.
Yeah. I'm seeing 2 ports on it.
On what?
On that box.
You're looking at the brochure for the Lexicon Alpha.
I'm not looking at it now. I having it in my head that you were
Oh,
showing.
that's scary. Okay, go ahead.
You were showing it, and there were two inputs on it. Well, let's put it this way: 4 sockets actually.
Okay, so what's your question?
How many? But you said that it only provides 1 sound card.
No, it's one sound card, but it's a stereo sound card, 2 in, 2 out. So it has multiple versions of the multiple configurations for the input.
So, but it cannot be used as for 2 different channels of the mixer.
No.
Okay.
Well, it depends. It's a stereo sound card. It is not 2 1-channel sound cards.
Okay.
It is 1 2-channel sound card.
Now you cleared it. All right.
One would expect that through any reasonable mixer, you could divide those channels, though.
Well, you divide them into stereo, but what he's talking about, for example, just to be clear, is there is no way on a stereo sound card to have the left channel is the mic input on Skype and the right channel is the mic input on Blab.
Right.
Because it's still one card.
I imagine there is a way to do that, but it would sound ridiculous.
No, there's no way to do it. You can't split the channels.
So so really, there's no difference as far as functionality between this and the UCA202.
Correct. Identical.
Okay.
It has some additional functions in terms of the volume controls, the input volume control, the output volume control, the mix for the headphone amp. I mean, it has a little more functionality than the UCA202, but the primary benefit, the 2 primary benefits of this, of the Alpha Lexicon versus the UCA202 is the inputs and outputs are balanced, number 1. Number 2, the drivers are supported in Windows 10 easily when Behringer is running from their custom driver support. And third, Behringer is focusing on ASIO, which the Lexicon Alpha offers, but it doesn't require.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the thing that the benefit for me to use one of those will be because it's a different driver and there's not going to be conflict.
Less conflict, less likelihood of conflicts with other drivers.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but I kept on thinking about this, and I'm saying, well, there were 2 inputs, so why is it just 1 card?
Well, it's left and right, but remember that Skype only sees the left channel on a sound card.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use it with Skype, which you are, then it only makes sense to look at it as a 1-channel, i.e. left channel sound card, because the right channel doesn't go anywhere for the input. You can use it for stereo playback from the computer using left and right channels going into a mixer with left and right channels, but it's still 1 sound card.
Okay. That's clear now. It is clear. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I got to get out of here, Amnon. I've got.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. We should.
I do myself. I actually haven't rolled out of bed yet, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you jumping in and giving us some input. A little techie for what we do, but that's okay. I'd rather it be too techie than not techie enough.
Right.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yep.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you, Colin.
Join us again.
All right. Jorvik, thank you too, and everybody else on Blab. Of course, our audience on Computer Studio now is just beginning to grow now. And I'll admit I ignored the chat on the website. Mike, were you?
I've been watching it.
Okay. All right, but I know that Nick is listening. He's ignoring me, but that's okay. I'll talk to him later. But that's it for today. Mike, thank you Steve. Oh, Steve already left.
Yeah, he had to go.
Yeah. All right. So, good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive. Update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And while you're at it, follow us on Facebook, like us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And today at 1 o'clock, it's going to be My Life, My Will with Gisela. And tonight at 8 o'clock, it's the Tanya Love Show. We'll talk to you later, guys. Have fun.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Parent Dome with Ryan Miller, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.